Let's do the project as described in stage 1 of our book. It's a nice little project to learn some more things about Scratch. So let's see if we remember how to create a project. I'm going to click on Create. And first thing I do is I want to give it a name. So let's do that. Stage 1 project. Okay, so for this one, we're going to make Scratchy move and draw for us. And so Scratchy here, I don't really like that name Sprite 1. So you can actually change the name of your sprites by clicking on that eye right here. And you can call your sprite something more interesting. Of course, I'm just going to call him Scratchy. There's other things we can do in that little window, but for now, that's all we're going to do with it. So the idea is to kind of get an idea of where Scratchy can go. So I'm over here on the left here. Scratchy is clicked, and I'm going to click on the stage where it says background. And we have some ones that come with it. So over here it says choose backdrop from library. I'm going to do that. You could actually create your own. You can open from a file. You can create a picture, all those things. But for right now, we're just going to create our own. And I'm going to go into other just to filter a little bit. And right here it has an XY grid. So I'm going to click on that. And this XY grid is how we can direct where Scratchy goes. And fortunately, if you're good at math, this should be kind of easy to understand because this is just the coordinate plane with our 4 quadrants. So over here is quadrant 1, and this is when your X is positive and your Y is positive. Now, where is your XY? So you can see down here, it tells you where your mouse is going. Now, if I keep moving him, and if you look where it says XY in that lower right corner, this is when your X is negative and your Y is positive. And then over here in quadrant 3, that's negative X's and negative Y's, and this is quadrant 4, positive X's and negative Y's. And of course, 0, 0 is the origin. So all that stuff you learned in math is going to help you here. So that kind of tells us where everything is. And we're going to start moving Scratchy a little bit. If you want to have an easy way to get him back to 0, 0, because if you're moving him, and again, I'm looking down here, if you look at the mouse, it's really hard to move things around. So I'm going to go back to scripts, and scripts is your code. So, and I'm just going to do a very simple go to, which I'm dragging out here, and I'm going to call it go to 0, 0. Change those things. So if you ever want Scratchy back there, you can always just click there, because sometimes weird things happen like, whoa, I moved him too far away and maybe I can't get to him. You can always get him back to a starting position. So that's not a bad thing to always have going. Okay, so we are going to make him move in a pattern. So we're going to use this command. There is a go to XY, and it tells you where to go. So if you go to 152 and 176, we know he's going to be somewhere in quadrant 4 because it's a positive and a negative, and it puts him down there. Well, we don't want him there now, so I'll just put him back. So I'm just kind of looking at the stage 1 notes, and I did attach that chapter to this assignment. And I'm just going to copy the things where it wants us to go. So, for example, if I want him to go to X150 and Y30, that's going to put him there. And then maybe next, I want him to go somewhere else. You can actually duplicate these. I'm going to right-click. Whoops, didn't do it well. If you right-click, you can say duplicate, or you can just drag out another one from here. But let's say I want him to go to 100 minus 20 next. X100, whoops, and then Y negative 120. So this says go right 100 and down 120, puts him down there. So I go here, and I can go here. Now I want to connect these blocks so that they go automatically. Now I'm clicking, it's hard to tell, but I'm actually clicking on this top one, but nothing is happening. Well, actually something is happening. It actually is doing both instructions. It's just that it's so fast that you can't see it going to the 150. Now if I separate them, you can't see that because it goes so fast when they're attached. So what we can do is we're going to go to the, I believe it's under control, and we're going to say, why don't you just pause a little bit, wait a little bit in between these two things. You can kind of just insert it. Now, if I run now, you can see it. Now, 1 second is a little bit too slow. The book has it at 0.1 seconds. It's a little bit fast, but you can still see, 1/10 of a second, you can still see that now we can see the motion. If that's too fast, you can always change that. So if you want to make it 0.2, it'll be a little bit slower. So whichever you want. And I'm going to put it back to 0.1 so it matches what's in the book. But we also want to wait after this one. Let's see if I can copy that from here. We'll copy too many things, but that's okay because I actually want a few more of the go-tos, places for him to kind of go. So he goes to 150, 30. He's going to go to 100, negative 20. Where else does he want to go? Negative 100. And then negative 120. Let's try to copy this again. And let's see, 150, negative 150 to 30. And I'm just getting these values from our little scratch book. And I'm going to put another weight at the end, since I don't have the right touch to get it to just copy that one. So now if I run through this, you can kind of see where he's going. Now I actually want another, I want it to be up here. So I'm going to add another go-to with a weight. I'm going to put the weight in first since I'm here. If I go back to motion, I can put another one of these on here, and I think I'll have them go up here. So I want to go 0 and then up a certain amount. So don't go left or right, but just go up, and I'll say 150. And I can click on this just to see what that's going to look like. And so he's doing things, which is great. Now if I want him to keep going around and around, now I can manually click, but you know, that's not a very good program where you have to manually keep doing that. So we're going to go to a control again. So control here. Control does several different things, but it also has this idea of a loop. And I have two kinds of loops that I can see here. There's a repeat loop that says do the thing inside here a certain number of times, defaulting to 10. Or I can say loop forever, which sounds very ominous, to do something forever. Generally speaking, in programming, you have to be careful if you're saying do something forever. Maybe you want it to do that, maybe you don't. So be careful. But in this case, if I click forever, this is going to keep going and going and going. And how do you stop? Well, we have our little stop button up here. So I can always stop by doing that. But do I like that motion? Now, if I'm clicking on the green flag, it's not starting. So if you go into events, I can put when the green flag is clicked. So if I stop now, my go flag will work. And it's good practice since every Scratch project should have the start and go to make sure that they both work. So that looks pretty neat. There's another way to make Scratchy move, which is using glide. So the glide command, glide block, I'm going to put one here. We're going to do the same sort of idea with it, but I'm just going to put some different coordinates. Now this one has the wait time sort of built into it. How come go-to doesn't? I don't know. Actually, so I don't know why it doesn't. It doesn't. So this one does. So we're going to go to 150, x150, and y30. And then I want another glide. I'm going to actually just duplicate this one. Then I want to glide to negative 100 to negative 120. And this is just because it's going to make a little pleasing shape. Duplicate that one. I need five of the glides. So that's 3. This is 0. So we're not going left or right, but we're going to go up to 125. And if you're watching closely, these kind of match the things we did before. And then we're going to go to 100, 120. Negative 120, go down. And one more glide. So negative 150 going left, and then we're going to go up 30 scratch units. Now if I click this, it's sort of a different motion. So I'm going to actually stick it in my loop. So I can take this whole block, and if I go under the last statement in the loop and kind of click it in, it will just insert that right into the block. So now when my green flag is clicked, so the glide motion is a little bit smoother than the strict old go-to. So let me stop that. And so we get a nice little motion. Now to make this a bit more interesting, we're actually going to draw when he goes there. So let's see, I'm going to go to pen. And if you copy these statements at first, I'll put them outside the loop. So you start with a clear, and that says any drawing that's on there, any kind of pen marks, this will take them off. And then we're going to set the pen color to something. And the default here is this green color. I guess you can click on it and change it. I think what you do is you find a color and it changes it. There it is. I made it green. I clicked on the green of the background here and I got that to change color. Then we're going to set the pen size. And you'll notice there's a set it, change pen size by this or change it to. There's actually a difference here. So the pen size, I believe this is the width, and we're just going to set it to 10. And you can play around with this to see what the different widths do and how different that would look. Changing it by actually just increments and changes it automatically, sort of. And then I'm going to put the pen down. So just like on a piece of paper, when you put the pen down, it does things. So I'm going to actually stick this right above the loop because I don't want to keep doing this in the loop. I only want to do this once. And then when it's in the loop, it will just continue. So if I click here, I can sort of see what's happening now. I'm getting this kind of star shape. I'm going to stop here. I think I have a mistake. And this is called debugging. Something doesn't look right here. And so we have to figure out what happened. And I'm looking here. It looks like I am going too high at some point. So I may have some of my coordinates incorrect. So I'm just going to check. And actually, I think this needs to be a 125. I went too high there. Let's see if that fixes it. And that looks better. So debugging is important. When you run and something isn't looking right or it isn't behaving the way you think it should, you need to go and look at your code again and see if you can fix it. So I'm going to stop this. And you should really test around. Are there other bugs? Now watch what happens if I just, move Scratchy around before I run. And I'm getting this kind of stray mark. So if I were to start him over here, even though it says clear, it's still making that kind of weird stray mark, and I don't want that. So this needs to be fixed. So I'm debugging, trying to remove that bug or problem from this code. And so I think what needs to happen is that if I make Scratchy go to a specific place before I even start anything, hopefully that should get rid of it. So I'm just going to pick, you can pick any of these places where he goes. So the first statement is go to 0, 1, 2, 5. So maybe I'll just put him there. And so when I start now, because we're positioning him in a good place before we go through all this, set the pen down and do things, he looks great. So I can stop that. Pretty neat. All right. So the only couple of other things I want to do is to just make this maybe a little bit more interesting. Now this color is nice, but maybe I want to change the color. So there is a change color. Here's pen. There is a change pen color by command, and this is different than to. This says increment the existing color by a certain amount. So I'm going to leave it at 1. But here's an interesting thing you can do. Now this event, because Scratchy is clicked, this event will happen. Now you can have more than one event happening when you have a certain event. So I can actually put another when star is clicked, and I actually want to loop this. I'm going to make another forever loop around it. So I actually have 2 blocks here that are going to be run when I hit the green flag. So it's going to do the one we just did, and it's also going to do this kind of loop where it changes the pen. Oh, I did size. I didn't want size. I wanted the color. So let me do that. Change pen color by. Yeah, because I want to change the color. You can change the size too. That would be an interesting one to try also, but I don't want that. To get rid of one of these, you can either right click and delete. You can also just drag it back to the palette to delete things. But now when I hit my green flag, let's see what happens. And each time it's going through, you can see that it is incrementing up which color to use. So you're getting kind of this pleasing look to it. So let me stop that. And that is really what I wanted my program to do. Now, as a last step, because there's nothing wrong with having the grid in the background, but I want something maybe a little more fun. So I'm going to go back to my background and I'm going to choose a different image here. There we go. And I'm just going to pick this one. So now when I run this, it just looks a little more nice. And there's always different things you can do, and you can experiment and try different things. What if you created another sprite and maybe it drew something else, or maybe it says something? There's all kinds of fun things you can do. So first thing I would like you to do is actually make this, duplicate this, and then I'd like you to enhance what yours looks like, and there are instructions in our classroom assignment. Thanks for watching and hope this helps.